he's nervous.
Single coming in front of the press and saying this.
What'd you do?
On Tuesday, April 4th, 2023, Donald Trump entered a Manhattan courtroom and pled not guilty to 34 crimes.
Squash it.
Single coming.
Fucking movie star. You're a fucking movie star.
Said tick, tick, tick.
Before we go any further, Rachel Maddow, the perfect description of Trump.
No, I'm no body language expert, and this is just my observation, but he seemed old and tired and mad.
Give me a number randomly between 11 and 13. 12 times up. That's how many violations I've counted that buffoon Trump has done just today. When is somebody actually going to say, stop right there?
When are they going to look at Pomerantz or what Pomerantz did? Because that's bad stuff. And when are they going to look at all the lies that Cohen did in the last trial? He got caught lying in the last trial. So he got caught lying, pure lying. And when are they going to look at that?
And over at Fox, you are going to be a little bit surprised. They've been able to really dig below the bottom of the barrel, and they're now comparing Trump's time spent in court to... Okay. Take a breath.
I call it pure evil. So they've taken away his freedom of speech, and now they've taken away his freedom of movement. So he has to sit there all week for 6 weeks, and if he says anything, they'll throw him in jail. If he leaves, they throw him in jail. That's crazy. Mm-hmm. I mean, they had more allowances for Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. I think they bought $1 million soccer field for the people in Gitmo. I don't know if Khalid Sheikh Mohammed was able to visit his son for his high school graduation, but it's similar. They're freezing him to death. They're putting him in a meat locker. He says it's like 45 degrees in there. And they're putting his life in danger. And they're telling the entire world, all the wackos, this is where the former president's going to be at this date, at this time, surrounded by high-rise buildings. And then they're seizing his bank accounts with these unconstitutional fines, unreasonable bond asks. It's disgusting.
Tucker Carlson was always Tucker Carlson was always somebody who you kind of thought, well, at least he's got 2% of a brain working, even though he came across as a total liar. Whereas this Jesse Waters is just it's the same area where most people do put toilet paper. A-hole, correct.
He actually is, I mean, Jesse, to your point, he is given special treatment. He is under a gag order that any other defendant, if they violated repeatedly on Twitter, online, would have already been thrown in jail. He is under court orders that any other defendant would have, and he is violating them every single day.
But the guy needs exercise. He's usually golfing. And so you're going to put a man who's almost 80 sitting in a room like this on his butt for all that time? It's not healthy. You know how big of a health nut I am. He needs sunlight, and he needs...
I think we need to raise the intellectual level of the conversation. So let's go to Fox and Fiends, where they've come up with an amazing calculation. This is economics at its best. Who knew?
Consequence of this case that could be life-altering for the former president, and that's in the hands of these 12 people.
Does this set a precedent for other people who want to run for president? What if they've done something like this in the past and they could say, oh, well, they told me in 8th grade they wanted to run for president, so since they paid off a girl when they were 30 years old, then that was election interference.
Right, because they knew that somehow in 30 years they were going to be presidents. They were trying to contribute to themselves and not report it. Exactly, this whole thing is crazy.
You may recall, I'm old enough actually to remember when Trump wanted to ban TikTok. Now, for reasons best known to the fact he's had a very nice financial injection by somebody who's a big supporter of TikTok, he now wants to blame everything on TikTok disappearing on President Biden.
This is Jeff Yass. He's the richest man in the state of Pennsylvania, and he's single-handedly proving that the TikTok ban has nothing to do with data security or protecting the American people. It's just a thing. He just runs a private trading company, basically just a different type of investing, called the Susquehanna International. That focus is on tech companies. And in 2005, advertising economy was doing well. Jeff looked and said, hey, maybe there's some Chinese tech companies that are worth investment. That's where he found Toutiao, which was one of the first apps that used data to make custom newsfeed. It was an algorithm, something similar to the TikTok algorithm. Jeff's Susquehanna International Fund invested $10 million into the company that would later become Buddies. TikTok's parent. Jeff's personal share of ByteDance, which is worth around 10%, is now worth $21 billion. And what did he do with that $21 billion? Donated. People like Frank Swam and Donald Trump, who were both strongly in favor of the TikTok ban, and now they're against. These people catch a fat check from Meta and are in favor of the TikTok ban, and then when they catch a fat check from a ByteDance investor, they change their tune. I love American politics.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Oh, and before I forget, ALINA Yabba Dabba Doo was spotted outside the Trump court. And, nice hot mic moment.
Affront to the American Constitution, it's an affront to our judicial system, and it's an affront to every lawyer that cares about their license, that cares about what is right and wrong.
I just think it's so good. And it brings the moisture so it's not dry.
So what vegetables are we using? Celery?
We use celery and carrots.
Celery and carrots.
But I love these. I had to go to 2 different places with Joseph's.
Now, our taxpayer dollars, my time, our attorney's fees, are all here because they're afraid of 2024. And you know what? They should be, because the American people are not stupid. They see what's going on. Thank you.
Leah, one question. Was Trump standing with you guys across the street?
Excuse me.
Between Trump Tower and the court building.
Trump leaving Trump Tower on 5th Avenue.
They're now making their way across town along 57th Street. They just crossed Park Avenue, making their way up towards Lexington.
Seriously, are we going to follow this guy to court every day?
I know that there's going to be this hearing before court resumes today about the gag order. And I just wonder, I mean, Donald Trump wants to be careful about asking people to come and rally. And I mean, the last time he was pushing people to show up somewhere, there was an insurrection on the Capitol. And he was saying, I'll meet you there. I just don't think he should be telling. I'm not a lawyer, but it seems to me that he might want to just go to court.
Well, that's who he is, though.
And not ask people to show up in his defense.
Sam, after he was inaugurated as president of the United States, you could go in the White House for the next week. And usually when you're outside the press room, you can see all these different pictures. President with a young child, president with Marines saluting, president with this, president with that. Donald Trump put up pictures of the crowd from angles that made it look like he had more people at his inauguration than he actually did. So he's sort of obsessed with this stuff. I will say he told them to congregate peacefully. Maybe that's where the misstep was for Donald Trump, because nobody showed up. And so it's maddening to him. Everything seems to be going against him. He's having to sit in this courtroom. I thought it was fascinating last night on Fox News. You actually had Fox News hosts complaining that he was too old. He was a 77-year-old man. Who would make a 77-year-old man sit down all day?
Just in case he's forgotten, can I take this opportunity to remind Calamity and Sanity Hannity, his former lawyer is one Michael Cohen. Just putting it out there.
That money was not campaign money. Sorry, I'm giving you a fact now that you don't know. It's not campaign money. No campaign finance violation. So
they funneled it through the law firm.
Funneled through the law firm, and the president repaid it.
Oh, I didn't know he did.
Eric Trump appears to have, he's got a touch of the Meghan McCain's. My father. My father has the tiniest violin in the whole of America. It's true. And the other thing, just in case you weren't aware, Eric Trump is said same person, by the way, who's not allowed to run a charity in New York. Pilfering the money from kids is probably the best description. But anyway, I distract. Back to, my father is so innocent.
My father was focused on running the United States of America, not bookkeeping. Not that anything was done wrong in the bookkeeping.
I need to open up a company for the transfer of all of that info regarding our friend David. I spoke to Alan about it. When it comes time for the financing, which will be what financing? We'll have to pay you. So no.
Crimes you can possibly imagine. Yet they're going after the former president of the United States, a person beloved by hundreds of millions of people in this country, over $130,000 from 8 years ago. They could have charged him any time in that period of time. Not that he didn't do anything wrong, but they could charge him. They wait until 196 days before an election to drag him into court. 34 felony counts for
what was going on in New York, that it brought you to tears. Why is that?
Tears, because we need Trump back or else we're going to lose our country.
Do you think Trump ultimately testifies here? What's your sense?
I don't think he should. Will he? Obviously, that's his choice. That's a decision that really comes down, to the wire, and based on how the trial has progressed up.
Back in the real world, AOC had some interesting things to say about Earth Day.
Today is a historic day and a landmark achievement for organizers and countless young people as we officially open the American Climate Corps to the public. I want to thank President Biden for working with us to take swift and bold executive action to protect the planet by launching the American Climate Corps, and also for investing billions in clean, resilient energy via the Solar for All competition, among so many other climate victories. As you'll hear in today's announcement, it is no accident that this president is overseeing the single biggest federal investment in tackling the climate crisis in our nation's history.
Nothing should surprise you. So Melania Trump, who's been a little bit quiet, suddenly has got a reaction to the fact that her husband is in court over the fact that he cheated on the person he was cheating on, Melania, with a porn star. And her reaction has been to flog some jewellery for Mother's Day. Well, we rearrange it. Her reaction has been to take something from Temu, a little bit of drop shipping, increase the price, and the magazine will think, yeah, $245, no problem, straight into Melania's coffers. But let's face it, that prenup doesn't appear to be non-existent. Oh, there you go.
And next, First Lady.
Kind introduction and beautiful words. Good evening. So great to see so many familiar faces here tonight. It is an honor and a privilege to be in your presence once again, surrounded by friends and allies who share the common goal of promoting equality for all. I amplified legislation and created awareness campaigns that elevated important issues such as foster care, sickle cell disease, social-emotional learning techniques, and neonatal absence syndrome. We passed.
I never thought at any stage I'd be doing the Melania Trump super quick guide to drop shipping. You go on something like Alibaba or Temu, find something kind of cheap, and you flog it at a really big price to the Trumpy Trump maggers, because they love any old crap. So you're thinking, what's she selling now? Toilet roll? No, she's selling a 3-heart clover for a lot of money. You gotta give her one thing. She's definitely watched a few old editions of The Apprentice and is marking it up high. So as I said, you can have the Temu version for a couple of dollars, or you could just throw your money, flush it down the toilet. Same thing as they did it to Mrs. Former Guy. Good luck.
Inside Donald Trump's prison cell, the surroundings are like any other small enclosed space. The walls are gray concrete, and a narrow cot with a thin mattress is the only piece of furniture. A tiny metal sink and toilet combo sit in one corner, while a small barred window allows a sliver of natural light to filter in. The sound of clanking bars echoes through the air as guards patrol the hallway outside.
What is...
President Trump is 76 years old. He will die in federal prison.
Trump spends his days pacing the limited floor space. The once powerful man now finds himself in a place of confinement.
Hello. Thank you, Zanaya, for sharing your story. embodies the spirit of Earth Day. On this day 54 years ago, with literally toxic rivers burning, air filled with pollution, millions of Americans from every age and background rallied together to stand for our environment and for future generations. I got to know Senator Gaylord Nelson, from Wisconsin when I got to the Senate. And he organized the first Earth Day. I later introduced the first climate bill in the United States Senate, and all these years later, as president, I was able to sign into law the Inflation Reduction Act, the most significant investment ever anywhere in the history of the world, and we're just getting started. Earth Day pushed the country forward, leading to Environmental Protection Agency, and we're fortunate enough to have with us EPA Administrator Michael Regan here. Where are you, Michael? Stand up, get up, get up. I stole him from Carolina. We're not letting him go back. And we're joined by our great Secretary of Interior, Deb Haaland. Deb, stand up. First Native American ever to serve in a cabinet. And AmeriCorps CEO, Michael Smith. Michael, where are you? There you go. Joined by members of the Congress, including Ed Markey of Massachusetts, who, by the way, thought this was an important idea a long time ago and talked about dealing with the Climate Corps. One needed one. Ed, we owe you a lot, pal. We owe you a lot. And Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont, who understands what beautiful territory looks like up in Vermont and has done everything in his power to protect it. Bernie, you're the best. And Representative Ocasio-Cortez of New York, you know, I learned a long time ago, listen to that lady. Listen to that lady. We're going to talk more about another part of the world, too, real quickly. Look, joined by all of you advocates and community leaders, this is a good day. It's fitting to be here in Prince William Forest Park. On March 31, 1933, during the Great Depression, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt created the Climate Conservation Corps, which is talked about a little bit, to put Americans to work to conserve our country's natural resources. Thousands of young Americans from the Civilian Conservation Corps built this park, providing jobs, recreation, hope, and healing at the time. We know today we face another kind of existential threat. It requires equally bold and clear action. As president, I've seen the devastating toll of climate firsthand. Since I've been president, I've flown over all the major fires and the thousands upon thousands of acres that have burned flat by wildfires, more acres than the entire state of Maryland combined. I met with families whose homes are wiped off the map by devastating hurricanes, floods, and storms. Last year was Earth Day's hottest day on record. And over the last 2 years, natural disasters and extreme weather in America have caused $270 billion in damages. And the impacts we're seeing, decades in the making, because of inaction, are only going to get worse, more frequent, ferocious, and costly. But since Kamala and I took office, we've been acting, and today I'm proud to announce 2 major steps forward. The first, energy costs are among the biggest costs for families to budget, particularly poor and middle-income families. In fact, low-income families can spend up to 30% of their paychecks on their energy bills. It's outrageous. To reduce family energy costs for folks with low and moderate incomes today, the Environmental Protection Agency will invest $7 billion from our Inflation Reduction Act in a new program called Solar for All. We'll award grants, 60 grants across the country to states, territories, tribal governments, municipalities, nonprofits to develop programs that enable low-income and disadvantaged communities to benefit from residential solar power. And it's a big deal. This new Solar for All program means that 900,000 households, 900,000, will have solar on the rooftops for the first time and soon. Millions of families will save over $400 a year in utility bills, and that's $350 million nationwide. My dad said it matters what's there at the end of the paycheck, but the month is out. Do you have anything left? It means we'll cut more than 5 million metric tons of carbon pollution annually. And folks, solar for all will give us more breathing room and cleaner breathing room. It's going to also create 200,000 good paying and union jobs over the 5 years in communities that need it most, fence line communities. You know, as I always say, I think about climate. When I think about it, I think not only about health and safety, but I think about jobs. And that brings me to my second announcement. Last fall, I talked about a historic new program that my administration was launching with the help of my colleagues on my right here, called the American Climate Corps. As I said, and I'm not being solicitous, Ed Markey talked about that long before. It's patterned after the Civilian Conservation Corps and the Peace Corps and America Corps. Like them, it brings out the best in young people to do what's best for America. And will put tens of thousands of young people to work at the forefront of our climate resilience and energy future, clean energy future. Today, I'm proud to announce that Americans across the country can now apply to become the first members of the American Climate Corps. We're recruiting for over 2,000 positions in 36 states to start with, in Washington, D.C., Puerto Rico, with many on the way. Just go to Climate Corps, as mentioned already, climatecorps.gov to apply. You'll get paid to fight climate change, learning how to install those solar panels, fight wildfires, rebuild wetlands, weatherize homes, and so much more that's going to protect the environment and build a clean energy economy. To ensure a pathway to good union jobs and careers, you'll have access to free apprenticeship training through a new partnership we're announcing today with the North American Building Trade Unions. And as you may remember, when I announced in 2020, I initially didn't announce my climate position until I talked to the unions, because unions were all, they thought climate cost them jobs. Well, guess what? IBW stepped up, and they all stepped up, and now our strongest support comes from unions. When you finish your service, you finish your term of service, you'll also be eligible for a streamlined path to federal government jobs related to climate and clean energy. We're also announcing a new collaboration with Bloomberg Philanthropies that puts American Climate Corps members in energy communities like former coal mining and communities, power plant communities that have powered our nation but have been fence line communities and hurt very badly for generations. Today's announcement builds upon an unprecedented historic action we've already taken to tackle the climate crisis, deliver environmental justice, and build a clean energy future. Just look at the last few weeks alone. To ensure clean energy, we issued new standards for chemical plants that emit toxic pollution. Now is ending. And because of the Clean Air Act, we're going to reduce the number of people at risk for cancer in fence-line communities who have been smothered for decades by pollution by 96%, according to the studies. By the way, parenthetically, my state of Delaware, which everybody thinks is a wealthy state, I live in a place called Claymont, Delaware. It's in that arc that goes up into Philadelphia, into Pennsylvania, and to the Delaware River. More energy plants, more oil refineries than anywhere, including Houston, Texas. And I lived in just literally, the school I went to was literally a quarter mile from that border. And the prevailing winds were southeast, where we lived. So there was never any incentive for the Pennsylvanians to move to do something, but it affected Delaware. And we had the highest cancer rate in the 1970s of any nation, any state in the nation. And guess what? A lot of us, from me included, ended up with bronchial asthma and many other diseases. Fence line communities are the ones we have to help first because they've been taking the brunt of all of this. To ensure clean drinking water, we issued the first ever national drinking water standard that will protect people from exposure to harmful substances known as forever chemicals. And after 30 years of inadequate protections, we finally are going to put a ban on asbestos, which we know causes cancer. It's all part of a plan to reassert America's climate leadership. We rejoined the Paris Agreement and sparked a domestic clean energy manufacturing boom, providing incentives for 80,000 farmers to implement climate-smart agricultural practice, so plant what absorbs carbon from the air and pay them for doing it. We've quadrupled the number of electric vehicles sold, and 11,000 dealerships have now signed up to sell more. We're modernizing infrastructure with better roads and highways, energy grids, and more, so they can withstand and recover from extreme weather. Already underway, we're replacing every single lead pipe in America so everyone can turn on a faucet, home or at school, and drink clean water that doesn't contain lead. We're also reducing flood risk for communities, improving drought resilience, and conserving 41 million acres of our most precious and sacred lands and water. I committed that I'm going to try to take of all non-developed land and waters, we're going to take 30% of it by 2030 and make sure it is conserved, period. We're well on our way. We've already attracted nearly $700 billion in private sector investments in advanced manufacturing and clean energy, creating tens of thousands of jobs here in America. And all across the board, we're lifting up communities and workers too often left out in urban, rural, suburban, tribal communities all across the country. But folks, despite the overwhelming devastation in red and blue states, there's still those who deny climate is in crisis. Our MAGA Republican friends don't seem to think it's in crisis. They actually want to repeal the Inflation Reduction Act, which provides the funding for a vast majority of these projects, and roll back clean air protections for clean air and clean water. And I'm not going to go into it now, but I'm not making it up. It's real. Just listen to what they say. Anyone in or out of government who willfully denies the impacts of climate change is condemning the American people to a very dangerous future, and the world, I might add. They want to take us backwards, sideline our workers, let China and others lead the race for clean energy. I'm determined, absolutely determined, that we move forward. We move forward. Let me close with this. In 1933, and it was referenced by the Congress lady, that when Roosevelt outlined the Civilian Conservation Corps, he said, quote, and I'm quoting, "More important than the material gains will be the moral and spiritual value of such work." He always put it in the context that went beyond just what the immediate need was. I'd say the same holds true for what we're doing here today. It has a moral imperative. And I've never been more optimistic about America's future. We just have to remember who we are. We're the United States of America. And there's nothing beyond our capacity. We work together. And so happy Earth Day, folks. And God bless you all, and may God protect our troops. We're going to get this done, I promise you, come hell or high water. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Come on. All right, guys, let's get this done, okay? All right. God bless you all. Thank you, thank you, thank you.